Hey everybody, the shark is venturing into new hunting territory, and of course he's wearing a mask. Come on, let's dive in and see what's going on here. Well, the shark mobile's squatting a little bit. 1,250 pounds of computers loaded up. There was another tier on there, and I finally had to break it down because it was just grabbing the wind a little too much. So I did a quick stop and pulled off the top tier and put the top tier down around the stack and then strapped down the stack. It made it a much more comfortable ride. Anyway, we got to get to work here. These are all different kinds of computers, so there's no telling what we got in this load. Hey folks, well, we're back on the tailgate again. Trying to stay out of the sun a little bit here. And I've got the work area set up for those DR 600s still. I probably have another 60 or so to get through on those. And I picked up this pallet of computers, so we're kind of in between things that need to get worked on here. So I'm going to work on a couple of them here, and these were, so this is a mix of computers that I got from one of the local scrap yards. We're doing an experiment to see if I can make money buying from them at a certain rate. Not going to discuss the rate at this point because it's confidential with them, so I apologize for that. But the idea here is that they buy whole computers, I buy the computers from them, break them down, and we see if we both can make some money in the process. What's interesting about this is that these are just a mixed bag of computers. They're not you know, all of the same kind. In fact, I started breaking them down yesterday. I don't think I found two that were the same kind yet so far. So so it's just whatever people are bringing in. I mean, like, you know, here this one's got a power supply stuck in it, and it still has its own power supply, so who knows what that's all about. So let's see what we're dealing with here. What are you? Gateway GT5465E personal computer. What do we got inside here? Pentium core duo or dual core. All right. So now there were about 50 computers in this load. They're going by weight, so it's not a actual count. So it'll be interesting to you know, to see how we decide to handle this. But because they're going by weight, you've got some computers that are, you know, complete whole computers that somebody just pulled off their desk and brought in, and then others that are not really computers at all. Got hard drives. This one's got a hard drive in it. And so yesterday, in fact, I came across one. It was an empty shell. Still had the motherboard in there, but otherwise an empty shell. But they had put maybe a dozen hard drives in there. So what's up with that? I don't think it was the scrapyard. I think it was whoever sold it to the scrapyard. And the scrapyard specializes in automotive stuff. So for them, they weren't paying any attention, you know. They're just buying whole computers. So I don't know. Now, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to get through enough of them to get a decent load of shred in the truck, and then get that over to the yard so that I have an empty truck to go street scrapping with. So we'll see how that one plays out still. It's kind of like when it rains, it pours kind of scenario going on right now. I got a lot of stuff backlog that I need to spend some time working on. Let's see. Oh, isn't that pretty? That is an interesting looking, what do we got here? PC2 8500 Gold Series. 2 gigabyte. Wow. Huh. Well, I think we'll set that one aside just because it's kind of interesting. Cleaning up there. And got the usual assortment of, you know, periph type boards coming out of these. So you know, one of the big differences when you're dealing with a mixed bag of computers like this is you can't really get in a rhythm because they're all different. I mean, the computers are all just a power supply. I mean, you know, basic home PCs are basic home PCs, but you know, they all have their own little nuances, and it's not like when I've done things like get an auction from a government district and I end up with 50 of the same kind of computers. Boy, then you just get on a roll and you're banging right through them. Get this heat sink out of the way. Yeah, nice aluminum heat sink there. Yeah, we're just going to leave that in. And the cable we're just putting aside for right now. We will be going through the cable to look for things like the gold connectors, because those we can pack up and sell to board sort. I use those as, instead of packing peanuts, I'll take bags of gold connectors when I'm putting a box together for board sort, and use those as the shock absorbers. So it adds a little bit of weight. They're not cost effective on their own for me to send to board sort, but if I'm sending a box full of high value items, you know, it's a good way to get some value out of those. And we're just getting some cable out of the way here. Now, this is where things get a little bit different when you're scrapping large quantities of computers like this. So for me, this has got the potential to be a weekly or an every other week kind of thing, right? So whereas in the past, I would take my time and really dig into the computer and break it all the way down. In this case, now we've got to move along a little more quickly. So there are some things that I'm just not going to bother taking out, you know, like the old floppy drives. There isn't much of a board on those. The really old ones there is, of course, so you know I have to be careful what I look at there. But with the CD-ROMs, you know, I pull the CD-ROM, I pull the board off, and then the rest of it goes in. I'm not going to take the time to go digging through all those motors and try to get that little brass screw. But if you're not getting a lot of computers, then you want to do that because there's value in the little motors and things like that. So it's a weird twist of what you have to do when you're getting a large quantity of things in order to keep up. It's all just a balancing act. And right now we don't know what the balance is going to be, so we got to adjust. You know, this yard fortunately is privately owned, and we're able to negotiate with each other and, you know, come to a nice balance on what makes sense for both of us in this operation. And that's the best way to do business with anyone, right? Is recognize that both of you want to make a little money and find a way that both of you can make a little money without it being a one-sided relationship, and then the business relationship can go on and on and on. All right, so they did not lie. It is a dual core, just like the casing said. That will eventually find its way to board sort as well. Typical small socket, green. For me, it's not cost effective for me to send these to board sort. So these go to, it's just the little battery. So these go to my local yard as high-grade boards. They don't pay as much as board sort pays, but I don't have to pay for shipping. Going there anyway. So, all right, this is an interesting heat sink. I don't think I've seen one like this before. Let's see how this comes off of here. That's not it. Maybe that's just the paste holding it down. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Huh. Interesting. And there's the heatsink. Cool. And some trash. My heatsink bucket is around here somewhere. All right. Here's an example of why it's interesting when you're doing these lots of miscellaneous computers like this, because this chip came out of one of the computers that I scrapped yesterday. So that's a nice ceramic. You got the gold there. I'm sure that the gold is all throughout this ceramic. Nice gold pins. Now I have to decide if I'm going to sell that, process that, or just hang on to that as a keeper. Don't know yet. You know, and here's another thing I got to decide. Usually I take these fans and I pop out the blade part and then bust off the fins or cut off the fins, depending upon what way. Some of them just bust right off. Some of them you got to cut, right? And then, now the reason I'm doing this is because my yard treats that as a small motor. If it's a fan, then they pay next to nothing for it. They have a category for computer fans, but I might as well throw them in shred for what they're paying. This is a small motor, and they pay worth, you know, a little more for that. So, but with so many computers now, you know, with the potential to be processing a lot of computers now, I've got to decide: do I want to keep spending time doing that? See how this goes. This is interesting. You will come out this way, which means that's got to come off. There we are. Usually with the CD-ROMs, you have to take off the plastic faceplate, and that comes out. Now I know that those of you that watch my channel for a while, you know that I usually have a mailbox, an empty mailbox, metal mailbox that I put the little bits in. The only mailbox I have right now is full, so I'm throwing the little bits in the orange bucket. So gold sheen. So there's some little gold sheen right there, so that'll go in the gold fingers. And this is where, oh, that's interesting. That one's still got a CD or something in there. Let's go ahead and take the time to see what's in that. Oh, it's installation software for a USB adapter. Oh well. You can see that the CD-ROMs are not that hard to get into, you know, just a shell. And then here's a little board that controls that motor, or there's another little motor there with a brass spindle, helix type spindle. And if you want to take the time to get those, the only thing that's annoying about them is they tend to be really small screws. Now sometimes you can also just grab hold of that spindle and bust it out, and that literally busts. So there we go, got the brass off of that. There's a little motor there. This is the eye part here. There's another little motor there. Let's see if that motor wants to come off easily. The screws look a little bigger. All right. Now, again, this isn't that hard to get into. There's 1, 2, 3 little motors. There's the brass piece, that spindle that I busted out, or you just leave it in there as shred. All right, so you know, normally I would take the time to open these up and pull all this stuff out, but in this case, because I'm going to have so many of these things processing, I'm going to pull off the board, because Board Sort has a decent price for CD-ROM boards. The rest of it is just going in with, there we go, going in with shred. With my yard, I have to be careful with the plastic. You know, usually they're okay with computers having some of the plastic because they just assume that's the way the computers are coming in, and they recognize they're buying the plastic. What I try to do is not put too much of the plastic in. I'm not going to certainly throw any extra plastic in there, but if it's something that would have already been on the computer anyway, then they're just used to it and it's not that big a deal. That's a round heatsink. Ooh, what do you think? Copper stacker? No, rats. Not a copper stacker. Oh well. C'est la vie. I did not look to see on the label what this was, so let's find out. Intel i7. Oh, cool. All right, so i7 is on the buyback program, so this one will get special handling on its way to Board Sort. If it tests as a functional unit, then I'll get paid a lot more money than just scrap value for it. So this one gets set aside for special handling. So you can, one of the giveaways, it's not, you know, I don't know if it's 100% positive, but if you see the retaining arm for the bracket is bent like this, then chances are good that it's one of the i-series CPUs. The straight arm ones, not necessarily the case. I have not found any of the straight arm ones that were an I series yet, and every one of the bent ones I found is an I series. So, you know, take that for whatever it's worth. Let's get the battery out of here real quick before we forget. Hey everybody, well, I'm going to jam through some more of these computers and get ready to take a quick run over to the yard. So how about if you stick with me here and let's see what I'm taking over to the yard here. Let's take a look real quick. Okay, so I'm ready to head out to the yard here. Like I said, this is not anything huge, right? Not a great big load. It's just I need to get rid of the scrap and the pallet so that I have some room to go street scrapping tomorrow. Yeah, I'm still planning to do that. Get rid of some power supplies because they're stacking up fast. That mailbox is full of small shred bits, and then there's a couple of batteries down in there because we're only allowed to take in 2 batteries at a time. Hopefully I can get rid of this stuff without getting wet. Well, at least wet from rain.
Are they worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the crowd going on there now. I'll see what's going on. All right, that's Muscle Mike waving me on. Well, unfortunately, they were playing the radio pretty loud in there, so I'm going to have to dub over the audio in order to not get a copyright strike. But you can see that basically what we've got here is that black bucket is small motors. There's Wendell coming out. He's checking out what I got here. You know, there's the black bucket with small motors, and then these 2 bins are power supplies with wire. So nothing real great. And then the 2 batteries that I brought in, again, we're limited to 2 batteries at a time. It's something that the county imposed as a way to cut back on crime a little bit. So let's take a look at what we got paid here. The batteries, for the 2 batteries, they weighed 6 pounds at 10 cents a pound, so 60 cents. And then the power supplies with wire, we had 77 pounds at 13 cents a pound, so that was $10 and a penny. And then the small electric motors was 15 pounds, and that was at 13 cents a pound, so $1.95. All right, so again, the big thing here is I was just trying to get some space so I got room to put stuff as I continue to scrap things out. I hope y'all enjoyed this portion of it. If this works out, I could have a steady supply of computers coming at me. Now, also, I cannot sell the pallet to these guys, and I don't have any place to keep the pallets anyway, so I always just give these guys the pallets. They put them to use. You know, I know that they're going to do something with them, so when I leave this area, there's a place where I just stick the pallets, and then they put them to work. So, all right, everybody, have a great day.